Autumn is associated with pumpkin spice, sweater weather, and horror movies. Wait, did I read that correctly? Yeah, horror movies. I'm a scaredy cat, so I guess I can't relate. But in preparation for Halloween, the stores start getting filled with 6-foot skeletons, people decorating their front lawns and graveyards, and driving around with a strapped skeleton in the back of their pickup truck. Movie theaters are filled with new and old rated R horror movies. Families and friends gather together to have horror movie watch parties, which is why every year, one or more horror movies makes it into the top 20 gross films in the world. And Netflix releases dozens of similar films a year, making them the top producer based on number of views. Why is there such an interest in horror movies? Is it safe to watch horror movies? Can this affect us? There definitely is something to talk about here, so let's talk about it in order. Let's start with the history. The world's first horror movie was released in 1896, and it was called The Devil's Castle. Since then, the genre has rapidly begun to develop, making it very popular and in demand. Paintings were created based on mythology, Gothic novels, historical events, and real stories of serial maniacs. Psychological thrillers, interpretation of mystical legends, with images of devilry and variations of the end of the world. And the popularity grew and grew. Why do people watch horror movies? Based on the research of Professor David Innes, Kenetra Brooks, and Joseph Lettix, with the graduate student Colton Scrivener, 3 reasons can be identified. First, it is being presented as a safe environment, with the combined effects to experience fear, face a traumatic encounter, and feel an adrenaline rush. The kind of emotional swing often creates an artificial surge of energy and a sharp feeling of relaxation immediately after watching a horror movie. A person wants to tingle his nerves while realizing that he is completely safe and in control of what is happening, or can stop watching at any moment. Secondly, many are attracted by the desire to test themselves, to test their endurance and stress resistance, to prove to themselves and others that they are not cowards. Thirdly, many of enthusiasts of scary movies admit that they were running away from their own problems and troubles into an alternative and artificially created reality. However, the Professor Friedrich Coolidge of the University of Colorado argues for people with unstable minds, as well as demographic characteristics like their age, physical or psychological factors, watching horror films can be very traumatic. How can horror movies be dangerous? There's a physical impact from watching even one horror movie. Studies show that people begin to suffer from insomnia, they have problems with their appetite, and sometimes with their health. The psychological impact, and here's where it gets serious. A considerable number of fans of scary movies or casual viewers begin to suffer from depression. They have panic attacks, develop phobias. This is especially influenced by the thematic horror films related to specific objects, elevators, mirrors, electronics, and others. Watching horror movies causes and heightens mental illnesses, as well as hallucinations. Thrillers, action movies, and other mind-stirring movies also cause addiction. The body gets used to these emotional swings and surges of adrenaline, making it an addiction. Watching horror movies can make you desensitized and decrease your responsiveness to real-life trigger situations. For example, the death of a loved one can lead to the inability to empathize or express grief. Desensitization can lead to cruelty towards others. Watching horror movies is often used to relieve bouts of rage and anger, but it doesn't always work that way, and often leads to backlash. The spiritual influence of watching various kinds of horror movies can open the door to unclean spirits to your spiritual heart. This leads to any of the before-mentioned psychological and physical problems, resulting in an addiction. There are countless stories of this being the outcome, and its impact on a person is extensive. Everything we talked about is especially detrimental to children, adolescents, highly sensitive, vulnerable, or unstable people. And this is the problem. 2/3 of the total population So check yourself. What category do you belong to? Our own conclusion is the following. There are many terrible events and tragedies in this world. So why do we seek to artificially create additional trauma and stress ourselves out? Especially if it can have so many other side effects. And of course, the Bible doesn't explicitly forbid watching horror movies. However, guided by the reason and the text of God's word, we can draw certain conclusions. And here are a few verses. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Reject every kind of evil. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. Here are some additional scriptures that may answer your questions about this topic. Liked the information we provided? Check out our other videos on similar topics on our YouTube channel. In the description below, you will find additional information on this topic. Let's expose evil and protect our children.